Hi, my name is Abai.
And my name is Linda.
And we are team number 7.
We are going to explain the Incoterm DAT,
which means deliver at terminal.
An important characteristic of this Incoterm is that it's multimodal, which means it could be moved via air, sea, or land.
Let's take a look. Provision of goods and payment of the price. The seller has to provide the goods and the commercial invoice in conformity with the contract.
Licenses, authorization, and formalities.
The seller has to obtain at his own risk and cost all required export licenses, documents, and authorizations, and carry out export formalities and procedures,
and the buyer also needs to obtain any import licenses or authorizations and handle all import formalities.
Contract of carriage and insurance. It's another responsibility of the seller to contract and pay for the main carriage of the goods to the named terminal at port or place of destination, but it's not his obligation to the buyer to secure a contract of insurance. But at the buyer's request and cost, he should provide information to enable the buyer to obtain insurance.
As for the buyer goes, there is no obligation to contract carriage or insurance, delivery, and taking delivery.
The seller must make the goods available to the buyer, unloaded from the arriving means of transport at the named terminal at port or place of destination within the agreed upon time.
The buyer responsibility is to take the delivery of the goods at the named terminal at port or place of destination as provided in the contract.
Transfer of risk. The seller must assume all risk or loss or damage to the goods until they have been made available to the buyer, unloaded from the arriving means of transport at the named terminal.
From the buyer's side, he must assume all risk of loss or damage from the time the goods has been made available, unloaded at the named terminal at the port or place of destination. Division of costs.
The seller must pay all costs until the goods have been made available to the buyer, unloaded from the arriving means of transport at the named terminal at port or place of destination. Also, he needs to pay all costs of loading and carriage to the named place of destination. He must pay as well all costs related to export, including export custom formalities, duties and taxes, as well as costs required for transshipment through any country prior to delivery. Also pay for costs of unloading the goods at terminal.
The buyer must pay any additional costs after the goods have been made available at the named terminal at port or place of destination within the agreed upon time. He as well must pay all costs relating to import formalities, duties, fees, and taxes, as well as costs of onward carriage.
Notice to the buyer, notice to the seller. The seller has to provide timely notice that enables the buyer to take possession of the goods at the named terminal at port or place of destination.
For the buyer, if according to the sales contract, the buyer is entitled to specify a time or point of taking the delivery at the named place of destination, proof of delivery.
The seller must provide the buyer with a document that will allow the buyer to claim the goods at the named terminal.
And the buyer should accept the seller's delivery document if it is in conformity with the sales contract.
Checking, packaging, and marking. The seller has to pay all costs associated with checking the quality and quantity of the goods to be in conformity with the contract. Also, they has to provide pre-shipment inspection as required for the export formalities. Finally, he has to provide marking appropriate to the packaging.
The buyer only needs to pay for pre-shipment inspections unless such is required by the country of export. Other obligations.
The seller has to timely provide the buyer, at the buyer request and cost, assistance in security information, and documents, including security information required by the buyer for import and transport of the goods from the named terminal to the final destination. He has to reimburse the buyer for buyer costs related to the security information and documentation.
As for the buyer, timely advise the seller of any security-related data requirements, as well as to timely provide the seller, at the seller's request and cost, with any documents and information required for export, transport, and security clearance of the goods to the named terminal at port or place of destination.
In conclusion, this Incoterm is ideal for consolidated cargo, and by deliver at terminal, the terminal could be any place, such as a quay, warehouse, and the place or port of destination. This was the explanation and rules for the Incoterm DAT 2010. Thank you!